June 8th, 2025, Mary Conley. I'm going to go over some things on the Ann Burr case. Some of it's conjecture, but I've spent a lot of time listening to this. First of all, let's go over my brother. My brother would have been about 13 or 14, and I was about 11, and he had a paper route. My father, a chief petty officer at Naval Air Station Jacksonville, was a little irritated with him because, like Kojak, he kept growing this paper route and growing this paper route. I think he even did the Journal. We had two newspapers in Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Journal and the Florida Times-Union. Well, he had the morning route, and I think he had like 70 or 80 people, and he had this Rolodex that would stick on his bicycle handlebar. And he would, the only time he'd go make the collections, and he had like a pile of money. I was kind of impressed with it. But anyway, Johnny went fishing in Cedar Creek, and he dropped his pole in the water where he was standing, and he bent down to get the pole, and there was a tin can in the water, and he cut his knee very, very severely. That's when my father got irritated, because now he couldn't ride his bike to do this paper route thing. And I remember my father saying, you let it get too big, you let this paper route get too big. But before then, I helped my brother sometimes with the paper route. Why I was out there, you would imagine 11-year-old girl at 3 a.m. You say, why were they out at 3 a.m.? Those papers have to be given to 60 or to 80 people. The way it would work is we had a little shopping mall called Cedar Hills Shopping Center. Now it would be called a strip mall. On the very end, the newspaper company would come in a big truck and drop the papers onto the cement in the dark. And what you had to do is you had to take each newspaper and fold it into 3 sections, 1, 2, 3, and put a rubber band around it. You'd fill your basket up as tight as you could. If you're lucky, you'd have 2 baskets on the back side of your bike and a basket in the front, or saddlebags on the back. I don't remember. Johnny had more on his. And then we would proceed. And now remember, we lived on Altland Drive, all the way from Altland Drive. I remember Vista, because there's a house on Vista to this day that kind of is a red brick house that was kind of like a castle, It had like a castle thing on it. So I know we were that far, but I would say we went almost up to Murray Hill. So, and our ridings during the night would be 2 to 5 miles. Now, I'm not saying directly 2 to 5 miles away from the house, but easily the trip around everywhere was about 5 miles. And I had I had a blue bike, Western Flyer. I can remember when I was looking, somebody had their dog missing over in Murray Hill. And I remember when I was over there by that Four Corners Park walking, I said, this looks a lot like some of the places where we delivered the newspaper when we were young. So that would have been off of Cassett. So not only Vista over here on this side of Cassett, but maybe all the way up towards Four Corners Park. I'm not lying. It was pretty far away. I remember hairdresser shops and stuff like that. And we'd have to toss those newspapers into the yard. Well, you got down there to pull those newspapers. It was 3 a.m. And then you might have to drive back, and there was like a circuitous route that my brother had created. You'd have to go back and pick up some more, because you could only hold so much on your bicycle. Anyway, so there's that. So the summer of 1961, a few years prior, my brother would have been operating in 61. He was born in 51, so this would have been probably 65, 67, 68, here in Jacksonville, a whole different place, across the world. But people got their daily newspaper. And there would be a day when he would go around and do collection. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if he must have had to cut in some for me. I don't remember. Probably not. But anyway, there's that. Now, in 1961, Louise Bundy was giving birth to Richard, her final child. Well, we don't know what month Richard was born in, but we do know this. Back then, when a woman gave birth, she was in the hospital 3 or 4 days. That's right. They kept you in the hospital. You couldn't tell the sex of a child, but to find out you were pregnant, they would shoot some of your hormones or urine into a rabbit, and if a rabbit died, it meant you were pregnant. That's terrible nowadays, but back then, they would do something with your urine. If you were pregnant, the rabbit died or something. That sounds horrible. But anyway, but you still didn't know the sex of the child. So all that year, Bundy knew he was getting another sibling, but he didn't know what the sex of it would be. And then thirdly, Bundy lived in the basement. Some people said he was embarrassed, but he liked the independence. If you're going to be coming and going at 3 a.m., it's nice you're in the basement because you'd have to wake up the rest of the family, okay? So, and another thing that I don't like is when they say he was 14. Hell's bells. The guy was going to be 15 in November 24th or 25th, whatever his birthday is. November 26th, 1946 or whatever, November 24th, 46. So it was August 31st. That's closer to 15 than it is to 14. Then he talks about how he didn't develop and things, something happened during that year. Remember, he goes in, I went to junior high school and things were just not the same. Or when he went into high school, he said he didn't seem to progress. Something, he didn't know what caused it. Maybe the idea that you've killed somebody and it's on your mind all the time, that you killed some little girl, you know. And then he said he denied that he heard anything about it. Well, hell, he's delivering the newspaper. It must have been all over the front of the newspaper. And, you know, if you have a compadre, they're going to say, look at this. Some little kids, I mean, you'd be talking about it. The family would be talking about it. Schoolmates would be talking about it. We had some guy that died from equine encephalitis from mosquito bites. And I remember the people, you know, how can you protect yourself from a mosquito, you know? Anyway, these are my thoughts. I have more thoughts because, one, I realized that he was a Boy Scout, and some of the thread, and he was flamboyant in the way he dressed. He always wanted to be preppy. So red was not a common color in 1961. Red was not a common color for men, but the Boy Scouts of America had red scarves and red socks. So there you go. I mean, you know, he would have had some material that was red. Okay, then thirdly, he's able to come and go from a basement dwelling because he's in the basement. What else? The dog barking. I have dogs. If I have a plumber come here, they can bark non-stop. If somebody comes in my house to do something, I have 4 little dogs, 2 Chiweenies and 2 Doodle mixes. Okay, and they say, well, that's a lot of dogs, but one of them was a rescue. One of them was an abandoned, and I rescued him. Another one was kind of a similar situation. Anyway, if somebody comes in this house, they can bark non-stop, not just a few barks at a storm or cat, which they just might bark for a couple of minutes and then stop. But what I think he may have done is when he entered, he could hear the dog barking, so he left the front door ajar. He knew the house, he knew the situation. He went up and told Ann, oh, I'm the paper boy. Your dog's gotten loose. Hurry, I think he's been hit. And a little girl's going to be so upset about her dog possibly getting run over, she's not going to stop for anything. She's going to go right on out the door. And the dog, Barney, may have gone on out. He may have let the dog out the door. But because of the rain and because of nothing else happening, eventually the dog, being a homebody, luckily just came back. He could have come in or out. I wish they could have said, I think they did see some grass on the floor. But, I mean, it'd be interesting to know if it was too bad, you know, if the dog had left some paw prints by the door. I wonder if anything like that was checked. I don't know. All right, those are my thoughts on it. I think he used dogs more than you know. I think because the dog's mentioned by his cousin Edna, the dog mentioned by Ann Rule. There was a dog at Lake Sammamish. It could have been the same situation there, where when that girl came in, do you have a little, whatever kind of dog they had, Labrador, whatever it was, that Denise Naslin had. He said, I think your dog's gotten hurt, or your dog almost got run over in the parking lot. I put her in a Volkswagen or something. Then she would have drunk, didn't matter. She's going to go get her dog. Some stranger said they'd taken her dog and put it in his car for safety. So you don't know exactly what's going on, but you're going to go on over there. That sounds more like a scenario to me that he would have said. He could see that she came up there with the dog. She goes in. He just simply walks the dog and puts it in his car. And then when she comes out, nobody would have really thought about that. Some guys, everybody was leaving. It was about time to leave the park, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever, 4 or 5 o'clock. So he picks up the dog, no trouble. The dog's benign. He puts it in the car. Then when she comes out of the restroom, he says, your dog almost got hit, and then you're going to go right with the person and get your dog back. You don't know exactly what the heck's going on. All right, thank you. These are extrapolations that my mind thinks about. Thank you.